Welcome to the Golf Report podcast. Today I'm joined by Tiff Joh, who is the Associate Head Women's Golf Coach at USC. Tiff, how are you doing today? Thanks for joining me.
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks for taking the time to join me. I really appreciate it. So, yeah, just tell me about, this fall season. I know you played at Palos Verdes, and, tournament just got canceled due to weather. Weather hasn't been great, in California. So, yeah, just tell me about this tournament at Palos Verdes. It's hosted by Ohio State, Just tell me about the tournament, and it got switched from a stroke play tournament to a match play tournament. So yeah, just tell me about the tournament and what it was like dealing with the weather.
I actually felt really awful for some of these teams coming in from, the East Coast and like the Midwest coming in thinking like, oh, we're gonna play in sunny Southern California. And of course, it just rained the entire time they were here.
Yeah.
But honestly, we were so fortunate to get in the golf that we did. We ended up getting 3 rounds of match play in, and credit to Lisa Strom from Ohio State. She really had to pivot, and I think the decision she made to turn it into match play. And so we ended up being able to start what would have been the day that we normally play our practice round in College Am. So because of, her flexibility and her foresight, we're able to get in some golf, which is more than I thought looking at this forecast. And I mean, once the storm got here, it was, I think, one of the biggest storms that we've had in like over 4 decades. So we were actually really fortunate to get in any golf at all.
Nice. So let's just talk about the tournament. Your team beat Ohio State, lost to Texas, and then in a tiebreaker beat your rivals UCLA. So yeah, just tell me how the tournament went, and also playing match play. Anytime that your team plays match play, are you looking forward to the national championship and potential lineups for the matchup for the national championship, or are you just taking it tournament by tournament? How do you
Yeah,
look at match play for your team?
yeah, I mean, first of all, I love match play.
Mhm.
When I played college golf, the NCAA Championship hadn't been converted to match play yet. So
Mhm.
this format is extremely exciting. And yeah, I mean, the thing is that it's also the first tournament after winter break. So this tournament is kind of a feeler to see how everyone's coming back, if everyone's come back super sharp, like, what they've been doing over winter break in the off season. So I don't think we put like too much clout into it. I think it was honestly kind of nice that it was match play because typically, so Palos Verdes is a really difficult golf course, and it's one that I played when I was in college, and it's one that I struggled on a lot when I was in college. Not just because of the difficulty of the golf course, but because of the timing of it. I mean, normally over winter break, you go home, you see your family for Christmas, like you're not really doing a whole lot of grinding on your golf game. Plus, for other programs, like weather might be a factor too, if it's snowing or something. So typically, I mean, when I was in college, Palos Verdes was typically my worst tournament of the year. So
Mhm.
it is kind of nice for it to be match play because you can come back, play a challenging course with, an exciting format. But like I think there was one year where I came back and I shot like 84 at Palos Verdes, and it was really humbling. So it is kind of nice to like not be looking at the score. But our girls did really great. They all came back super sharp, and it was disappointing to lose to Texas in that second round. But yeah, it's always kind of a mixed bag when we're playing against UCLA.
Nice.
So it was nice to come out with a little tiebreaker win in that one.
Yeah, so let's talk about another match play tournament back in October. East Lake Cup. It wasn't played at East Lake this year. It was played at Atlanta Athletic Club. So yeah, your team unfortunately lost to Wake Forest. You've had trouble with Wake Forest as we'll get into. But Wake Forest great team. National champions last year. But your team did end up beating Texas A&M. To get third place at East Lake. So just how do you think East Lake went for your team?
Yeah, and same thing, mixed back. Like Wake Forest is just such
Yeah.
a great team. They have
Hmm.
so much depth, top to bottom, just really talented team. And their coaching staff is probably one of the best in the nation. So we're Justin and I, the head coach Justin and I are actually really good friends with Potter, with Ryan Potter, who's the associate head coach at Wake Forest. So we were definitely doing a little bit back and forth, like doing a little bit of trash talking. So, but honestly, like such a great team. And honestly, Texas A&M also a really strong team. We actually ended up setting up a little dual match to start once we got back from winter break down in San Diego, where Justin and I are both from. And they ended up getting us in that one. So I think, head to head with Texas A&M and match play, we've won one and we've lost one. So we're pretty evenly matched in that respect.
Nice. So also in the fall season, your team had a very successful fall season. You won Stanford's tournament, Stanford Intercollegiate, and then you picked up a win at Chambers Bay to open up your fall season. So, just tell me about, specifically Stanford's tournament. It had a great field, but you were also missing some players, like Amari Avery and others due to LPGA Q School, I believe. So, just tell me about, Stanford, um, your victory at Stanford, and especially, being down a couple players due to Q School. What did you as a coach learn from that? And, what did it teach you about your team, being down a couple players but still getting the team victory?
Yeah, like and I think that's kind of a testament to our depth as well. 1 through, 9, we're all pretty strong. I think having a couple players going to stage 2 for LPGA Q School turned out to be kind of a blessing in disguise, because it gave like some of our freshmen time in the lineup. And I think that ended up being really valuable. Frances Kim is one of our freshmen, and she ended up getting to be in the lineup for the first time there. And she ended up, contributing 2 scores that tournament and played really well. And then, in match play at the Palos Verdes tournament was her second time in the lineup. And again, she really showed up. So I think it really taught us as coaches to like really have faith in our younger players, and that going forward, the future looks pretty bright for USC golf with, our younger Trojans in the lineup.
Nice. So let's get into, the national championship last year, 2023. Unfortunately your team finished runner up to Wake Forest, but you beat South Carolina in match play, then you took down Stanford, who's obviously, a very good team. So yeah, just tell me about, last year's national championship. Obviously, you want to get the victory, but what was it like for your team to, finish runner up and get it all the way to the championship match?
Yeah, I mean, it was an incredible experience. Like I said, I love match play, and the reason I love it is because anything can happen, right? And for instance, I think like, in that Stanford match, our girl Bree Navarosa ended up taking down Rose Zhang, who's arguably one of the, best female college golf players to have ever played. So
Yeah.
that was really, really huge for her. But yeah, I mean, I think the thing is that at nationals, once you get into that top 8, you're really just kind of almost picking a lottery ticket to see who ends up winning. Just like that's how crazy match play can be. So I think just being in that position, getting to win a couple matches against some great teams was, to be like a huge win. And yeah, we didn't end up going all the way, but I think that squad learned a lot from that experience, and I think it's going to help us a lot going into postseason this year.
Nice. So you're a surfer, if people don't know that. So you're a surfer. So tell me how are you at surfing? Are you good? Average or not so great? And then your next tournament's Pac-12 preview at Hawaii. So do you think you'll sneak away to catch some waves, or do you think you're just there to help out your team and do your job as a associate head coach?
Yeah, so I would say in surfing, I'm
Mhm.
maybe a 30 handicap. Like I
Okay.
know enough to have a good time, but I'm not great at it. But
Okay.
I know I'm good enough to like, be comfortable in the water. That's actually one of the boards back there. And yeah, I mean, I love going to Hawaii. Even, when I played professionally, every time I went to Hawaii, I always rented a board for the week and paddled out whenever I could. I don't know if I'll have very much time. I'm learning that as a coach, it's a lot more of a time commitment than just playing and, taking care of your own stuff when you're, looking out for an entire team of golfers. It's a little bit more time and effort. So I don't know if I'll have time to actually paddle out, but I do travel with a little blow up inflatable mat and some fins that I'll go out and kind of like boogie board on. So I might do that if I have like 20 or 30 minutes to spare, but yeah, I don't think I'll be surfing over there.
Well, hopefully in Hawaii you'll at least get some time to go by the water, maybe
For
in
sure.
between your coaching duties. So, just one more question about your team this year. Obviously finished runner up last year at the national championship. What do you see for your team, going forward, with this season? Do you think, they have a chance to, compete for a national championship, or as coach, do you not like to set expectations? You just like to, you know, um, just see how it goes for your team, not really set expectations.
Oh, I love setting expectations. And,
Okay.
every tournament we show up at, I mean, we're trying to win. That's why we're there. And, nationals is no exception. Like we're hoping to go all the way. And I definitely think that this squad has, the talent and the discipline. And, I think they have what it takes to win. It's just a matter of putting ourselves in that position. Playing right at the right time. I think last year we were really fortunate that we started playing well just as we were going into postseason. So we ended up, winning Pac-12s, playing well at regionals, and then carrying that momentum into nationals. And if we can do that, and if we can keep doing what we're doing as a team and continuing with our player development stuff, like I think this team will be just fine.
Nice. And yeah, I've talked to a lot of coaches and they all agree that national championship, it's very challenging. You have both the stroke play and the match play, but it'll be a different challenge this year because, I mean it's last 3 years it's been at Grayhawk in Scottsdale, Arizona. Now you moved to Almy La Costa in California now, so it'll be a different challenge, going from, the last few years playing at Grayhawk and now the national championship will be at Almy La Costa. So your teams will
Yeah,
have to, learn a new course and all that.
for sure. And we're pretty excited. Justin and I actually both grew up in San Diego, and so La
Okay.
Costa
Yeah.
is not far from there. Unfortunately, they've completely like redone the course, so we'll have no advantage when it comes to that. But in terms of knowing like where to get the best burritos in the area, like we'll definitely have a leg up on the rest of the team. So excited about that.
Yeah, you can't help your teams with, their scores or their swings, but you can help them, find the best food and, best places to
Right.
eat. So that's great.
Sure.
So yeah, you're from San Diego. You were born in Philadelphia,
Mhm.
you didn't live there for long, until you're like 1 years old, I believe, I've heard.
Yeah.
But, just tell me about, growing up in San Diego and how you got started playing golf.
Yeah, so it's actually a funny story. My parents never really played golf, which is pretty rare for someone who lives in San Diego. Golf is maybe next to surfing, maybe one of the most popular sports down there. But yeah, I grew up in San Diego. Actually grew up playing like more instruments than sports. But
Okay.
in 1998, Sari Pack won the US Open at Black Wolf Run in just like dramatic fashion. There's that iconic shot where she takes off her shoes and socks and has to like wade into the lake to hit her ball out. She ended up winning in a playoff against Jenny Chisiraporn. And I literally saw that on TV, and it was like the first time that I had seen like an Asian female athlete on TV. And I literally picked up a club the next week. My dad was a professor at San Diego State at the time, and there's a free junior golf program really close to campus. It's called the First Tee, which I'm sure you've heard of. Uh, and that's basically kind of how I grew up playing. So I grew up playing a lot of like public golf courses in San Diego, like Torrey Pines, Coronado, Balboa Park, but mostly this tiny par 3 course in, South San Diego. So that's kind of how I grew up playing, and then, played some high school golf. And as I got better and improved, I started playing, bigger tournaments like local Toyota Tour Cup stuff, and then state championship stuff, and then eventually some like AJGA stuff and invitationals. And the thing is, at the time, Carrie Forsyth, who was the head coach at UCLA, she had a couple San Diego kids on her roster. And so there was almost kind of this San Diego pipeline already going to UCLA. So Charlotte Mayorkas, who just got inducted into the WGCA Players Hall of Fame, she was like the best player to ever come out of San Diego, and she ended up going to UCLA. And then Hannah Jun was like another iconic San Diego junior golfer. She ended up going to UCLA. And so naturally, every female junior golfer that came out of San Diego wanted to go to UCLA. So that's kind of the route that I took as well.
Nice. You're doing a great job, Tiff. You're answering all my questions without me having to ask them. Because I was going to ask about, getting inspired watching Sari Pak in the 1998 U.S. Women's Open. So
Yeah,
we'll just, we'll just
good.
touch on, well, we can touch on that if you want to, more about that.
Oh, so it was funny because, I want to say maybe like I don't know, 15 years later, once I made it onto the LPGA, I
Mhm.
actually got to play with Sari Pak
Yeah.
in San Diego at Aviara Golf Club, where the
Mhm.
Kia Classic was held. And I mean, I was just completely in awe because she was basically the reason that I started playing. And it was also really embarrassing because as a local, the starter gave me the longest intro when he was announcing me off the tee. And of course, Sari Pak, who's like a Hall of Famer, US Open champ, like just an amazing player, got like this tiny little intro because they didn't have time once they had gotten through my intro. And I just felt so awful. But we ended up having a great round. She's still like someone that I really consider a mentor to this day. So yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
it's proof that like representation really matters, right? Like, if I hadn't turned on the TV that day and seen someone that looked kind of like me playing golf, I probably would have never even been interested in playing.
Nice. Yeah, answered another one of my questions I was going to ask you, later on, about your time playing with Sari Park. So you already talked about it. So well, let's talk about, tell me more about your junior golf career in San Diego, and tell me about any friends, you grew up playing, or any friends that you made, playing junior golf in San Diego.
Yeah, so San Diego is such a cool place to grow up playing. Obviously Torrey Pines has one of the best
Mhm.
junior rates in the country, I think. I think if you're a resident, they might have changed now, but at the time, if you were a resident of San Diego, you paid $10.50 a month, and
Mhm.
after 2 p.m. on weekdays, you had unlimited play at the golf course. So it ends up being kind of the hot spot for junior golfers. Like everyone goes there after school.
Yeah.
So, I grew up playing in that, and, obviously Southern California, period, even not even just San Diego, but like LA County, all the way up to like the Ventura area. Like it's such a hotbed of junior golf. So my best friend that I still am best friends to this day is this woman named Jane Park. But
Yeah.
I mean, we
Mhm.
met at like a junior golf tournament in like Orange County or something, I think when we were 13 or 14 years old. And then we ended up going to UCLA, ended up being teammates with Ryan O'Toole, who's another LPGA player. So it is kind of interesting that as you get older and you go to the next level of, whatever golf you're in, whether it's junior golf to amateur to college to professional, um, you kind of just like, you're kind of still hanging out with all the same people. Everyone's just like a little bit older and grumpier, but it is interesting that like throughout this whole journey in golf, um, definitely like the relationships have always kind of stayed the same. I still hang out with pretty much all the same people that I do when I was like 13 or 14 years old.
Nice. So you went to UCLA, you're a Bruin, even though you're a coach at USC right now, but talk about the recruiting process, what that was like for you. And also tell me about the story of, you committed to UCLA on the spot as a junior in high school. So, tell me, how did that end up, coming about?
Yeah, I think so like I said, pretty much every junior golfer that I looked up to when
Mhm.
I was younger ended up going to UCLA. So, and even before I started golf, like UCLA was always kind of my dream school that I wanted to go to. So, I mean, I probably had the shortest recruiting process out of anyone that Coach Carey had talked to. I don't think there really was any recruiting, in fact. So back then, the NCAA recruiting rule was July 1st, coaches could start talking to recruits in person July 1st of their junior year.
Okay.
And I just remember I was playing, I think, an AJJ tournament at Mission Hills up in Palm Springs. And Coach Carey came down to watch. And then the last day of the tournament fell right on July 1st. So it was kind of the tournament a lot of coaches came to if they were going to give an offer to any junior golfer in Southern California, because every Southern California junior golfer was playing that event. And I just remember right after the round, I sat down on the couch in the clubhouse of Coach Carey, and she gave me an offer. And right on the spot, I was like, cool, like I'll commit right now. And she kind of looked at me and was like, do you want to talk to your parents or like think about it? And I was like, no, they know that like this is the school I want to go to. And she just like kind of grabbed her purse and like skipped outside. And so I think I like to think that I like made it really easy on her. It's a lot different now. I feel like when I'm going out recruiting, sometimes I feel like it's a little bit more work, and I'm kind of looking for someone to do the same thing that I did, but it hasn't happened for me
Mhm.
just yet. So, but no, like it ended up being one of the best decisions of my life. I loved playing there. I loved playing for the coaches that I played for. Alicia Holmes, who was my assistant coach when I played in college, is now the head coach. So it is a little surreal, kind of like coaching against her in some of these matches, but it's also really cool to kind of get reunited with her out here.
Nice. So I won't go through all your accolades. You have a lot of accolades from your time at UCLA, but I wanted to touch on 2008 NCAA Championships. You shot one under par. You tied for first, it says. But
Mhm.
you lost in a playoff, so unfortunately, I don't know if this is a highlight or a low light of your time at UCLA. Because you tied for first, but unfortunately you lost in the playoffs. So just tell me about 2008 national championship. What it was like to you didn't finish first, but you tied for first. So there's just tell me about your experience at this national championship.
So I don't remember much because it was a really long time ago,
Yeah.
but I do remember it was in New Mexico and it was super, super windy. I mean, I'm talking like 30, 40 mile per hour winds. And I also remember that I was coming down the last hole and Alicia Holmes, who's now the head coach at UCLA, was walking with me. And like I was just so tired walking up to the green. I remember, and it was against the girl I ended up tying and losing to in a playoff was Adahara Munoz, who's now on the LPGA tour. Um, and I just remember I was walking up and I just looked at Alicia and I was like, I'm so tired. And it wouldn't be the worst thing if like she won. She had a great season and like was kind of almost like giving myself an out. And I remember Alicia kind of looked at me and she was like, you just get it together. Like get it together. You're still playing in this. And she gave me a nice little pep talk, and I think I ended up actually three putting to lose. And then, well, I think I ended up three putting to get into the playoff, and then lost the playoff. Ada actually made an amazing putt. It was almost dark, and she made like a 35-foot putt up a tier to end up winning in the playoff. And I think I walked away from that, and I was like, yeah, I mean, that probably does it. So it was honestly a great experience, and I actually think that that experience has actually helped me a lot in coaching. I think it's one of the things that I really like about coaching is that I feel like I can go back to those experiences as drawn them. And so Catherine Park, who was a freshman last year, she ended up missing, I want to say like maybe a 2.5 footer on the last hole to tie Rosang for the individual championship in stroke play. And to be able to go up to her and like kind of understand how that felt and like empathize with what she was going through, I think was really special to do. And she rebounded tremendously. Like she's played so well for us this year. And I think that experience, like in a lot of ways, it can either make or break, your mental state going through. And she just rebounded so hard and has really turned that into a positive.
Nice. You've mentioned Rosang a lot. I got to see her win, at the Mizzou, her first, it was at Liberty National. But I'll tell you a good, Rosang story. She's not only is she, really good at golf, she also has an incredible, signature. I got her autograph. And not only that, but, the one thing she's bad at is computer science. I asked her, it's Python. She's bad at computer science. She told me that, when she was signing for me, because I'm a software engineer, so that's what I do, for my job. But, Rosang, very good, golfer, but not a very good computer scientist. So, yeah,
I'm so glad you found something that she wasn't good at, because in
yeah,
my mind, I'm like, what can't she
yeah,
do? She does everything.
yeah. Just comes out and wins in her first pro event, but computer science maybe not a strong suit for Roseng. I found out. So yeah, at UCLA you were teammates with Ryan O'Toole, and Jane Park. So what was it like playing with Ryan O'Toole and Jane Park? Obviously, got to go play on the LPGA tour, and also tell me do you have any interesting or fun Jane Park stories to share, or if not, just tell me you know what you like most about Jane Park.
Man, I have probably a million Jane Park stories, probably none of them appropriate to be telling anyone. But yeah, I mean, it was awesome to be teammates with those two, and not just those two, but I mean, I think from that squad, like Maria Ho-Ribe ended up playing on tour. Stephanie Kono played on tour. Brianna Doe played on tour. I mean, that squad was just so talented. And I think it's something that's really important when you're looking at a school to go to. It's like, how competitive a program do you want to go to? like, because, you know, when you go to a squad that's as deep as that, like there's a chance that you're going to be a good player that maybe doesn't get to travel as much as you normally would with any other program. But I think for me, it was the perfect environment because we were constantly pushing each other. We were all very, very competitive. We were all still really close, but we were able to like push each other. And, you know, every week when we played qualifying, it was almost preparation for Q school, right? So if you practice being in that qualifying mindset all the time, and qualifying never stops, even when you
Mhm.
get on tour, you're basically qualifying to keep your card or make a Solheim Cup or, you know, or what have you. So being like kind of put through the ringer consistently ended up being really great preparation for later. Um, let's see, my favorite Jane Park story.
Mhm.
Um, I think like when we were freshmen, she lived on the floor right above me in Deneb, which is the dorm that we lived in.
Okay.
And there was one week where she decided she wanted to like learn how to play the electric guitar. And most people would just get like the guitar and that's it. But she got the full like amp. She would
Okay.
turn it on full blast and try to teach herself like John Mayer songs. And she was not very good. But I do remember that like from the floor below, I could hear her above, like trying to just stumble through these guitar songs. Um, and yeah, I still make fun of her a lot to this day. But yeah, I mean, Jane is like, I mean, I FaceTimed her twice today already. So she's one of those relationships that like I've really kept through college. And that's the other thing that I think people don't realize about college is, you know, the teammates that you have end up being like your friends forever, right? You'll be in their wedding, you'll, you know, be godparents to their kids, they'll be your travel mates when you play on tour. So when you're looking at a program, I really do think that's important. Like you look at the people that are potentially going to be your teammates and be like, are these going to be like my lifelong friends? Are they going to push me? And are they going to like challenge me the way that you would, you know, your family?
Yeah, and Jane Park, she's not only an amazing golfer, but an amazing person. Her, her daughter Grace, her family has gone through a lot, so incredibly
Mhm.
strong person, and I commend
Yeah,
her for all that she's gone through in her life.
for sure.
Especially right now with her daughter. So let's talk about your amateur career. You won two amateur, U.S. amateur pub links titles in 2006 and 2008. Just tell me about those two, titles. What it's like to win a USGA championship.
Yeah, I think maybe this is why I like match play, that I there was never any point in time in either of those years where I was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna win this one. Every match was just like a total adventure. Um, I think and the other thing that's really fun about match play is you could shoot 10 over and win a match, and you can shoot like 15 under and lose a match. And I pretty much had both of those instances. I think in the finals in 2006, I think I shot like 13 under through 31 holes, and my opponent shot like 9 under or something. Like we both played really, really well. And the second time I won in 2008, which was ironically against a girl that was headed to USC, Jennifer Song, um, it was a little bit uglier. Like we were kind of both just like really just trying to like get get like the ball to like stay where we needed it to stay. Like it just played so much tougher. And, you know, there weren't as many birdies being made, but it was just kind of like a par grind out there. So I think that's the beauty of match play. Like anything can happen. And it's kind of, first of all, like who has the momentum going that day, but also it's kind of like who's willing to grind it out and make it work, even if it looks really ugly.
Nice. So you also got to play on the victorious 2008 Curtis Cup team, at St. Andrews. That was also, probably an amazing experience. You got to play with, Stacy Lewis. I've heard the story of, Stacy Lewis, even she was nervous, playing in the Curtis Cup. She topped her first tee shot. But, something else I want to talk about that people don't really talk about is you got to play with, an 18-year-old Mina Haragay, who's also from California. So, just talk about, getting to play with Mina, Stacy Lewis, and, just in general, getting to represent USA and play on the 2008 Curtis Cup, winning it at St. Andrews. Just tell me about that experience for you.
Yeah, well, the rest of the story with Stacy actually goes, yes, she cold topped her first tee shot, but her next shot, she actually one hopped a 3-wood over the burn in front of the green and then two
Yeah.
putted for par. So she cold topped her tee shot, but she ended up starting off with a par, and I think she ended up going on to like win that match and then every other match she played that week. But yeah, I mean, that was an incredible experience. I am
Mhm.
not like a golf course nerd by any stretch, but that place is really special because of the history of it. Um, and I do remember the first day we got there, Carol Semple Thompson was our captain, and I do remember we got there and she said, "All right, girls, like we get this whole course to ourselves." So you can play as many practice rounds as you want, but this is such a long week and you're going to play so much golf. Do not tire yourself out. But the thing is you're at St. Andrews and there's no one
Mhm.
else out there. So we were all playing like 36 holes a day just for the experience. But the other thing that was really cool is Megan Bolger Stassi was one of my partners in those matches. She's now the Curtis Cup captain for the upcoming Curtis Cup. So it's been really cool reconnecting with her. But yeah, that squad was so much fun. And also
Mhm.
the Great Britain and Ireland side, like that team was really fun as well. Mel Reid was on that.
Okay.
Carmen Booth was on that. Michelle Thompson, Brian Laux, like they're all people that we ended up seeing later on down the road when we all played professionally. So it was really cool getting to know those girls because, you know, to be honest, when you play golf primarily in the US, you really don't get as much exposure to the golfers over there, but also like those types of golf courses. You don't really get exposure to true links. So um, that was just a really great experience. But it was kind of funny because my partner in the alternate shot was Amanda Blumenhurst, and
Yeah.
we play completely different games. She's like an incredible ball striker, really great driver of the ball. And I'm like a little kind of like gross in the way I play. Like it doesn't look pretty. I like definitely can get the ball in the hole, but it's basically just chipping and putting. Like I don't hit it very well at all. So we ended up actually playing really well together, which was really surprising because our games are just so vastly different.
Nice. And something about the 2008 Curtis Cup that people don't talk about is you had the biggest victory for a USA player on the Sunday singles match. You beat Carly Booth 6-5. So Carly's also a great player. She's played on the LAT tour and played professional golf. So it's not like she's no nobody. She's a very good player. So that's something. You know.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Mhm.
It might have just been that like I'm a SoCal kid and it was so cold. I just wanted the match to be over faster. But no, she's an incredibly great player. And yeah, she's another one that later on when we played British Opens and Scottish Opens, like we ran into her again. So it was pretty cool to reconnect with her.
Nice. That's awesome. And congrats on that. So also wanted to talk about, probably another, cool experience you had is, as an amateur, you got to play in the 2007 Safeway Classic and the 2009 Kraft Nabisco, which is a major championship on the LPGA. So, what was it like to, play in the 2007 Safeway Classic and then playing, in a major championship, 2009 Kraft Nabisco as an amateur, just tell me about those experiences and what it was like for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just mind blowing, right? I mean, these
Mhm.
are all people that you grew up watching on TV that inspired you to play, that inspired you to, practice and work harder. So it was incredibly cool to get to play with them.
Mhm.
And I do remember during the Safeway Classic. So back then, when you first come on site and you're playing a practice round, there's like a little sign up sheet in the locker room, so you
Mhm.
sign up for times. And I remember that Christy Kerr had just won the US Open, so
Wow.
I ended up
Mhm.
signing up with her and got to play 9 holes with her, which was just an incredible experience. And then the Kraft Nabisco, same thing. Like I got to play with some really amazing people. The cool thing about the Kraft Nabisco is because it was in Palm Springs, it was relatively close to home.
Okay.
So unlike the Safeway, which was in Portland, because I was still going to school at UCLA at the time, before the tournament, I ended up probably playing there like 15 or 16 times because I ended up befriending a couple members. So every weekend that I had off from practice, I was driving over to Palm Springs from school and playing with these members. So the Craft Nabisco was really cool because I actually was probably more prepared for it than any other person in the field. I probably got more practice rounds there than everything. The cool thing about Craft Nabisco sponsoring a tournament is in player dining, they set it up like a grocery store aisle.
Okay.
So they would give you like a big black plastic garbage bag and like the walls were just lined with like Oreos and Wheat Thins and Cheez-Its, like all the Kraft Nabisco snacks. So as a college kid, when you come back to campus with an entire black garbage bag filled with Kraft Nabisco stacks, like you end up being like maybe the most popular kid in your like apartment complex. So it was nice. We had enough snacks to like keep us going that entire year. So that was kind of a big upside of playing that tournament.
Nice. So you graduated in 2009 from UCLA. Then unfortunately, 2009 Q School, you came up just short of, earning your LPGA Tour card. So you played 2010 on the Futures Tour, which is now, the Epson Tour.
Mhm.
So yeah, and then yeah, you went to stage three of 2010 LPGA, Q School. So, what was it like to get through, stage three of 2010 LPGA Q School, especially after, you came up short in 2009 and you played 2010, on the Futures Tour, what was that like, finally getting through stage three of 2010 LPGA Q School?
Yeah, I mean, it was great. And, to be honest, like not making it through that first time ended up being probably the best thing that ever happened to me because I don't think I was ready to play the tour yet. So I think if I had gone through that year, I would have just struggled a ton. But the Epson Tour is a great breeding ground to practice being a pro. The thing is, when you're in college, you play, you do play maybe 12, 13 events a year, but you get to play an event and then you come back to school, you study, catch up on your schoolwork, you get some space in between tournaments. Whereas professional golf isn't like that. I mean, I think there was at one point in time when I was playing, I think I played 13 straight weeks. So for 13 straight weeks, I like lived out of a suitcase and I traveled from tournament to tournament. And there's nothing in college or amateur golf that really prepares you to do that and to live that lifestyle. And it's actually really difficult. But being able to practice doing it on the Epson Tour is, a huge benefit. You get to like figure out how to find travel buddies that you can like coexist with, and the like the attitude out on the Epson Tour is it's a lot more, I would say, like cohesive. Like everyone kind of takes care of each other out of necessity. I remember like in Iowa, one of the players, her car broke down, so she dropped it off at a repair shop, and for the next 5 or 6 weeks, like the rest of us kind of took care of her and made sure that she could get from place to place until we came back and she was able to pick up her car again. So in that way, the Epson Tour is just a really great, like, and a safe space to learn how to be a tour pro. And I think if I hadn't gotten that experience from the beginning, like I don't think that I would have been able to play like an 11-year stretch on the LPGA. I don't think I would have been ready for it. So as much as it was like painful to miss that first time, I do think that in, the in retrospect, when I look back, that was like a really great thing for me.
Nice. So these next two questions, you can decline to answer them, but I think, there can be some lessons learned in these questions and, and your experiences with them. So, unfortunately, you lost your tour card and you had to go back to Q school in 2013. How difficult was it to lose your tour card and have to go back to Q school in 2013? You did finish, third in Q school, but how difficult was that experience in 2013?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a really common theme, and I promise you, I'm not like a toxically positive person, but that ended up also being a great thing for me.
Okay.
I think, I mean, not only did I lose my card that year, I think I lost it by like $40 or something because back then they went off of the money list. Like I barely just got kicked out of keeping
Mhm.
my tour card.
Okay.
Uh, but so I remember like I think it was Alabama, which was the last event. And I remember like checking the list and seeing that I had lost it and knowing that I was going to have to go to, Q school to requalify for my card the next year. Like I knew that I had like maybe a month and a half or 2 months to get ready. But I also intuitively felt that I was really burnt out and like overwhelmed with the game. So that was actually like kind of like my first foray into surfing. So basically what happened was after I finished that week, I knew that I needed to take like 2 weeks off of golf completely. And I needed to go somewhere where like touching my golf clubs wasn't even an option. So I ended up kind of doing like a Google search on like surf yoga retreats. And hadn't really surfed very much before, but was like really fascinated with it. And I ended up finding this like surf retreat in Nicaragua, left the clubs at home, went down there, learned how to surf, fell in love with it, and came back. And that day I like bought a board and I started going out pretty consistently in San Diego. And it really taught me a lot about balance, right? Because I probably didn't spend as much time on the golf course as I had before. But a couple weeks before Q School came around, I really started grinding a little bit more, and then ended up playing great at Q School. And it ended up becoming kind of like a routine. So after every final event of the season from thereafter, I would always do like a 1 to 2 week like surf trip where I left the clubs at home and gave myself a chance to miss the game before I started working again. And it became like a theme for pretty much the rest of my career. I started calling it my treat Joe self trips. And like when I look back, like, yes, losing my card sucked and it was really painful. But if I hadn't lost my card, I probably never would have started surfing, and I never would have discovered this thing that's such a huge part of my life now. So yeah, I swear this is like not a common theme on purpose, but it really ended up being a great thing for me.
Nice. That's an awesome story. How, struggling with your golf game led you to, your new passion of, surfing. So that's awesome. How through the struggles, you found a positive in it, your new hobby for surfing. So that's awesome. Another thing, probably very difficult for you, but, there can be a lesson learned in this, how, every round is different, 2018 Ladies Scottish Open, you shot 13 under the first 2 rounds, probably were playing really great, probably, I don't know if you're top of the leaderboard, but you're definitely probably up there. But then unfortunately, round three, you shot 80. So, what did you learn, from the 2018 Ladies Scottish Open, shooting 13 under for the first 2 rounds? And then, unfortunately, third round, you shot 80. What did you learn from that? What did that experience, teach you?
Yeah, it was definitely like, that's golf, right? It can
Yeah.
humble you in a second. Yeah, I do remember that first round. I think I shot like 62 or something. It was like probably one of the best rounds ever. And I went from like, playing or scoring my best round of my career or of that season to like literally 36 hours later shooting the worst round that I had shot that season. So it definitely teaches you that like golf is just really difficult. Like you never own it, you just borrow it temporarily. But I think, that round, it did play really difficult that day. It ended up being really, really windy.
Okay.
But I had the opportunity to play with Arya Jatanagarn, who ended up winning the event.
Okay.
And it was really special watching her work her way around that golf course in those really tough conditions. And I ended up actually like putting up a half decent round in the final round after that. So yeah, it was definitely like a little bit of a humbling moment, but at the same time, like it was such a thrill to get to play in the final group with the eventual winner. And I learned a ton. I learned how difficult golf is, and but I mean, it's why I love it. And I have to say, like, even after that round, even after shooting 80, like I walked off the golf course and I was like, this is still such an awesome job. Like I still get to do this. And, as bad as that round was, like, that was actually still really enjoyable for me to go out and experience that.
That's awesome that you can still, enjoy it and, have a smile on your face even after shooting 80. I know probably some professional golfers would, be upset or, mad at themselves for shooting 80, but, you remain positive, which is really great. So you played 11 years on the LPGA Tour. Your career came to an end at the 2021 Pelican Women's Championship. So, just tell me, how emotional and, what did it mean to you, when you played your final tournament in 2021, at the Pelican Women's Championship, what were the emotions for you at that tournament?
Yeah, it was definitely super bittersweet. At the time, I had actually already started coaching at Cal State San Marcos. So
Okay.
I played like technically my final event in Florida, but in reality, my last event was probably the Ohio Jamie Farr Toledo Classic, which was in July of that year, because the week after I took the job with Cal State San Marcos. So I'd been working like pretty much full time, had not really practiced that much going into the Pelican event at Florida. So
Mhm.
was not at all prepared to play with like the best female golfers in the world. But I honestly played just because I wanted like a proper goodbye with like these, individuals that had essentially been my family for the last 11 years. They'd essentially been people that I spent more time with than I spent with my family. So that was pretty much the goal of the week, was to be able to like basically say bye to all my friends out there. And I mean, honestly, to this day, like, when people ask me if I miss playing professionally, like I don't miss playing competitively, but I
Okay.
do miss all the people that I met out there, and, all the relationships that I had. So and I think for that reason, like that's why I really needed to go out there and play, even if I knew that I probably was not going to make the cut that week.
Nice. Well, I'll just say congratulations on, your 11-year career, and definitely, at least for me, you inspired me. And I'm sure a lot of other people, getting into golf and all that. Um,
Thanks.
so tell me, so now you're a college coach, how did you know you wanted to become a college coach? How has your transition been to becoming a college coach? And what was it like for you, when you became an assistant coach, at Cal State San Marcos?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the transition was pretty easy, but I think I knew that this is what I wanted to do after I finished playing.
Okay.
Just because, Coach Carey, who was the coach I played for at UCLA, she made such a huge impact on me, not just in terms of golf, but like in terms of, how much I grew up when I was still going to school there. So I did know that this was the path that I really wanted to take after I was done playing. And honestly, like I love the transition. I love working with like really talented golfers. I look at the talent pool now and the depth in college golf and junior golf now, and I'm like, maybe I should have retired like 5 or 6 years earlier because I mean, these kids are just so much better than I was when I was playing when I was younger. And Cal State San Marcos was the perfect place to start coaching.
Mhm.
It's like a very high level D2 program. So I think like, they won conference champion on the women's side. They won conference championships like 4 times in a row. Like I think they had gotten like maybe second at nationals the year before I even came on. So it was a very competitive program. And I think the coolest part was that I got to coach both the men's and the women's team. So it was really fun, getting to travel with both squads and watch how the guys played golf courses and the girls played golf courses. But yeah, it was honestly like the perfect place to start for me.
Nice. Yeah, I didn't realize before doing these interviews, but I really like hearing stories. There's a ton of, coaches who, played professionally on the LPGA Tour who I've talked to, Demi Runas, yourself, I talked to Heather Young, Florida Atlantic's coach, even some professional golfers who I've talked to who they say, after their professional career, they want to get into college coaching. I've even talked to some, college golfers right now who, say that they want to get into college coaching. So, it's just
Mhm.
great to hear that, all those stories and how people you know some people their goal is to play at the highest level, play professional golf, and then some people they want to get into college coaching, which I think is great. So
Mhm.
those are great stories. So yeah, you're a UCLA Bruin. You played college golf at UCLA, but now you're USC's associate head women's golf coach. So being a UCLA Bruin, what was it like for you, when you got hired and you became a USC Trojan, given the rivals there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the rash from all the cardinal and gold has gone away now, but no, I mean, I think like being from Southern California, like those are the
Mhm.
two big schools and the two big golf programs too, like UCLA and USC.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't think like from the get-go that it was that difficult, but yeah, it definitely stung a little bit the first time I ran into Alicia, who's the head coach now at the airport, and we were both heading over to a recruiting trip together. And I think it was like an extra little like stab in her heart to see me in the Trojan gear. But yeah, I mean, to be honest, if you look at the staff from at UCLA and USC, there's actually a lot of back and forth because they're like the two biggest schools in LA. You see a lot of, former Trojans that are in the UCLA athletic department, and a lot of former Bruins who are in the USC athletic department. So I'm definitely not the only one, but yeah, it's a bitter rivalry. So it is kind of interesting, especially with like basketball season. I just went to the USC UCLA basketball game, and I was like, wow, yeah, things are really tense. But no, I mean, I love both schools. UCLA's given a ton to me, and USC's also given a ton to me. So I definitely like, currently my loyalties lie with USC, but I have a soft spot in my heart for both programs.
Nice. So I have three more questions. So Curtis Cup this year is at, Sunningdale. Catherine Park was just on, the Curtis Cup practice squad. And also Ann was coming up, at Dutch National Women's Amateur. You have three players, Bailey, Mari, and Catherine Park. So as coach, I asked this because, I heard that Mari one year had Justin on her bag at Ann Wall. So, as coach, do you, ask your players secretly like, hey, who are you going to have on your bag? Who are you going to invite to these? Or, you don't ask your players to, go to Augusta or go to the Curtis Cup? Do you go to these events as college coach or, you just leave it up to your players?
Yeah, I'm not sure because last year when they played, I was still, just a couple months into coaching. So I'm not sure what their plans are this year. I don't know who I need to like get in tight with to see because I would love to go to Augusta. Also,
Are you asking Mari like, hey, are you gonna have who are you gonna have on your back? 'Cause she had Justin one year, I believe. She said in an interview.
I don't think we've really made any plans yet, but yeah, maybe it's getting to that time where I need to start putting out some feelers. The other cool thing is, Jane Park, my best friend, lives in Atlanta. So, I'm sure she would love to drive out and spectate as well. So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I mean, hopefully.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, and do you like going to these big events? Do you go to any big events, recruiting as a coach or, not really?
Yeah, I mean, a ton, especially in the summer, when things calm down on, like actually playing with, the team and stuff. So, yeah, during the summer, that's pretty much all we do. We're just traveling around, looking for future Trojans. So, yeah, I love going out and recruiting though. I love watching like good golf because now that I don't practice anymore, every time I go out and play, it's like pretty gross and disgusting. So it's good to go out and follow like proper golfers.
Nice. So my next to last question, what do you enjoy most, now about being a college coach, being, getting to be around, the girls on your team, getting to work, for your head coach, Justin Silverstein, tell me, you played professional golf, but, what do you enjoy most about now being a, college coach?
So I think one thing that I didn't realize until this past weekend when it was super rainy and cold is that when you're a coach, when it gets cold, you can wear as many jackets as you want. And you don't have to worry about it restricting your swing. But aside from that, like Justin is the best head coach to work for. I've learned so much from him in, the past year and a half that I've been a part of this program. And to be honest, it kind of made me realize like how little I knew about the game when I was playing. And like I don't know if you follow a lot of what he does, but he's very analytical. It's very data driven.
Okay.
Most of our practices, we're just collecting a ton of data and doing testing. And I'm not a data driven person at all. That's not how I was as a player, but I've definitely really learned to embrace it a lot more than I have before. And I think like the best part of, you know, college golf is that like you get to celebrate your victories together and you kind of get to like grieve your losses together as well. And I think when I was playing, I remember actually that year after, I lost my tour card and then ended up, getting through Q school. I do remember after the round, I was like obviously ecstatic that I had gotten my card back, but I pretty much celebrated alone in my hotel room by myself, right? And that's the thing about professional golf is it can be pretty lonely at times. But the cool thing about college golf is whether you win or you lose, you have, 5, 6, 7 other people that you get to celebrate with, or you get to kind of, be down all together. And but having that group together is so special. And like the difference between, having one of my best LPGA finishes and celebrating by myself and winning in or losing in the finals at nationals and kind of all, being together. Like I would take a loss as a team over like, a victory individually. It just feels better.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great thing about college golf. I attended a couple events around here in the East in the fall. And it's a great thing is, seeing teammates, hugging and, just huddled around, hanging out around the 18th green as their teammates finish. So that's the great thing about, playing with your teammates and just, being around them. That's a great thing about college golf. You only get those for your 4 years because then, you go play mostly it's, golf's individual sport.
Mhm.
So for college years, it's great to play with, teammates and friends. So final question I wanted to ask about growing the game of golf. So, you played professionally. How do you think we can grow the game of golf, and especially, how do you think we can get more juniors, involved in the game of golf? Because, most juniors want to play with their friends play, basketball, baseball, volleyball, soccer, all those sports. But, the first sport juniors don't think about is golf. So, how do you think we can grow the game, and how do you think we can get more juniors involved with golf?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is to just make it more accessible, right? I
Mhm.
mean, golf is it's a really expensive sport.
Yeah.
And not everyone is as fortunate as I was when I was younger to have access to like a free junior golf program like down the street from where my
Yeah, I'll
dad
just
worked.
stop you there. Access, that's one big thing that uh, that I preach about golf. You have to, get in a car, drive to the course, pay for your round, pay for, car, all that stuff, wear the right clothes. Whereas, right now I can just go, throw a baseball, throw a football, in my backyard or just, grab a basketball and just go down to my local park and just, shoot hoops. But golf, costs a lot of money, takes a lot to, go out there and play golf, then you're out there for 4 or 5 hours, takes a lot.
Yeah, so I think accessibility is a
Mhm.
big thing. And
Yeah,
also, yeah, like it takes a lot of time, right? Like a
yeah.
round of golf can take 4 or 5 hours, and
Mhm.
that's why I love playing like six holes because I think that's a perfect amount of time to be
Yeah,
spending doing something. But also representation. I think like a big key for me was seeing someone that looked like me playing. So I think, the more
yeah,
representation you have of like, people from different ethnicities or, countries, like, sizes, shapes, whatever, I think the more it encourages everyone that like really anyone can play this game.